Hello, and welcome to the Texas Department of Transportation open house for the proposed US 82 reliever route in Gainesville. Thank you for taking the time to view our video presentation. Let's talk about the US 82 reliever route study. We want your feedback on what you see as issues, needs, or concerns along the corridor, and we also want to know what you think about the various alignment alternatives under consideration. Let's start with some background information. Nearly 20 years ago, City of Gainesville officials approached TxDOT with concerns about the growing problem of traffic congestion through the east side of the city on US 82. So in March 2002, an IH-35/US 82 connector route study was completed in which 5 potential alternatives were developed and evaluated. A study group comprised of local civic and business leaders created to help inform TxDOT's decision-making process identified the pink alignment as their preferred alternative. The public, through a series of public meetings, identified the green alignment as their preferred alternative. Ultimately, the pink alternative was recommended for further study because of improved mobility, travel time savings, improved access, less cost, improved safety, and the best opportunity for economic development as compared to the other alternatives. Due to a lack of funding, the project effort stalled until a US 82 feasibility study was completed in 2012. That study identified mobility issues along US 82 and evaluated 7 different route alternatives that could address these issues. Ultimately, Alternative D was selected in the southeast quadrant of Cook County as the locally preferred alternative based on analysis of each of the alternatives and input from stakeholders and the public. Short, medium, and long-term improvements were also recommended along the corridor, with several improvements either complete or underway today for the existing US 82 corridor. Even with these improvements, it became clear to TxDOT and local officials that more needs to be done. For the current US 82 reliever route study that we're here to talk about today, TxDOT formed a work group comprised of local civic and business leaders to help guide us through the study. The work group reviewed the 3 recommended alternatives from previous studies and identified several new alternatives, ultimately bringing 7 alternatives to the public for input in October 2016, along with a no-build alternative. On October 4, 2016, TxDOT hosted an open house to get feedback on 7 alternatives. Here, you can see the alternatives that were presented at the meeting. 119 people came out for the open house, and TxDOT received a lot of valuable feedback. Feedback was received via comment forms, email, phone calls, and regular postal mail. In addition, TxDOT received comments about construction cost, access to property, economic hardship, the impact a reliever route would have on the community, and traffic congestion. After reviewing feedback from the open house, TxDOT developed an online survey to get more input from the public and stakeholders on alternatives. The survey was available from November 10th until December 7th, 2016. 214 people took the online survey. Most of the respondents were local residents, and about half lived within 1 mile of a potential alternative. Most of the survey respondents indicated that they use US 82 to access I-35. Survey takers were asked whether they thought a reliever route was needed. As you can see, most survey respondents felt that a reliever route is needed. Survey takers were asked what alternatives they recommended using. This information was used by the study team to help refine the alternatives that are being evaluated today. The alternatives being evaluated today were developed and refined based on previous studies, workgroup input, feedback from the first public meeting, preferences from the online survey, and engineering guidelines from TxDOT. Shown in color are alternatives H, I, J, K, and L. In gray, you will see the alternatives that were previously considered. This slide provides detail on the alternative screening process. We begin with the universe of possible alternatives that meet the project's needs. We then conduct the initial screening to narrow the alternatives further, which is where we are today. Using all gathered data, Professional judgment and public input will then narrow to the most reasonable alternatives. And finally, after construction costs are defined, safety, mobility, and right-of-way impacts are determined, and environmental impacts are quantified, we will reach the draft recommended alternative. The project team gathered Bluetooth traffic data in May of 2016 to determine where people are coming and going in the corridor. Using TxDOT's statewide analysis model, we forecasted traffic that could use a potential reliever route in the future. Ultimately, the forecasted traffic could help us determine the appropriate design of the proposed roadway corridor. For example, the number of lanes as well as types and locations of interchanges. Our initial observations project that the reliever route could attract almost half of the US 82 traffic in 2040. A 2-lane or Super 2 roadway for the reliever route would improve mobility along US 82. Ultimately, a 4-lane control access highway could be developed as traffic increases. To do this, TxDOT has proposed acquiring a 300-foot right-of-way to meet the needs of the controlled access roadway. This slide provides an overview of what current traffic looks like in the area, as well as what it is forecasted to look like in 2040 with and without a reliever route. In the next few slides, you will see that the 5 alternatives as well as a no-build alternative were evaluated and weighed against each other based on the following. Cost effectiveness. Is the alternative's length significantly longer than the average of all alternatives, thus increasing cost? And environmental impacts. Looking at potential displacements to residential and commercial structures, potential noise impacts, and impacts to floodplains, wetlands, and parks, are these significantly more than the average of all alternatives? Here is a map showing the alternatives that are currently being considered. Here is how the alternatives compare against each other using the criteria we have mentioned before. While TxDOT is looking to acquire right-of-way for a 4-lane control access facility, in the interim, a Super 2 or a 2-lane highway could be constructed. A Super 2 configuration is a 2-lane highway with passing lanes and interchanges at major crossroads. A 4-lane control access highway would operate at a level of service C or better in 2040. It is TxDOT's preference that this type of highway would ultimately be built as traffic demand increases. Your input is very important to us. We want to hear from you. What do you think about the information presented here? What are your opinions on the alternatives? So please help us by providing your input. It matters. You can do this in a variety of ways. You can click on the email link that's in the contact section of the project webpage, fill out the form, and submit. The Wichita Falls District will review every comment. You can also email comments to myprojectswichitafalls@txdot.gov. All comments must be received by Tuesday, May 31st, 2017, to be included in the official record as part of this online open house, and the public can contact TxDOT at any time with questions. Please visit the project website for updates by visiting TxDOT.gov and then searching US 82 Reliever Route. You can also sign up to receive email updates. Visit the project website and scroll to the top of the page and click on the Subscribe to Updates button and enter your information. When there is a project update, an email will be sent to you. So what happens next? Once the official comment period ends, TxDOT's Wichita Falls project team will review all public comments as part of the project evaluation and use it as a guide to continue refining the alternatives. In addition, the public meeting summary will be posted to the project webpage and will include responses to all comments received. Once a preferred alternative is developed, it will be refined to minimize impacts as design continues. This concludes our online open house presentation. Thank you again.